What is up, guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and I'm gonna break down a MonsterBass box for you guys. This is the December box, but it's not for December. And if you guys haven't heard about MonsterBass yet, you should. I know you've seen me with other box companies in the past. My buddy has moved on. He started a premier company releasing nothing but high-end baits that you guys have all heard of, and it's regionalized, like California, Midwest, East Coast, the South. We don't always fish for the same thing at the same time in the same type of way. So what MonsterBass has done has paired up with pros in those areas to select baits for you guys. But this is a unique one right here. This is the December, like the iCast Premier, whether baits that came out just at this latest iCast or new colors or what's coming out at the next iCast. And MonsterBass is bringing you that right here. So let's open this box up. I already peeked though, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have to lie to kick it. Boom. I know you guys have heard of that right there. The Lunker Hunt Spider, I've seen it. I don't work with Lunker Hunt, but I've definitely wanted to play with this thing. Probably just like a topwater frog, work it out there, throw it slow. I can see the legs wiggling inside the box, and they're supposed to be fixed. So probably the most subtle way you can fish this, the better. Probably just like a popper, but just insanely subtle. Calm, slick, warmer water, probably above 58-degree water temperature is gonna get you some eats on that. I know if you're right now in the winter like me, I probably couldn't get one to eat this right now, but I am dying to go play with that. Super stoked about that lure. The Hula Popper 2.0. I'm not sure if you guys can see it with the reflection on there. So the original Hula Popper had a rubber skirt on the back. The profile of the Hula Popper is just, Hula Popper's been around forever. If you've ever been involved in bass fishing within the last 30 to 40 years, you have heard of a Hula Popper, most likely. The difference is they replaced these now. Instead of the rubber skirt on the back, it's an actual feathered. I got the black and red, which is really cool because in the spring, blackbirds love to nest up in the tules, and throwing it right up next to tules, they think a little blackbird fell out and one of those big old giant bass will come smoke that thing. I think the old style hooks were like, they weren't on split rings. I think they were affixed to the bait, like screwed in. So these are on split rings now, so you can change it out. It looks like a premium hook on there. Doesn't look generic. Looks like a nice stout hook. And the feather's freaking awesome. Black with red dots. I've never seen a feather like that. If I'm not using this bait, I may just steal that feather because I love feathers on topwater baits. The X Zone Ned Zone, is that the Ned Zone? Yeah, the Ned Zone is what they're calling that worm. It's another Ned rig worm. Mine looks kind of like a root beer color right here. I don't know the exact name of every company's color because they all have unique names like Mississippi Bubble Gum Shaved Head. You know, like they're random names for baits. When I start describing something, I'll give you like a name like peanut butter jelly. It's like a purplish brown being peanut butter jelly being most likely grapish looking purple. I don't know, man. I'm just describing the color to you. Buoyant worm. Looks similar to the Z-Man TRD, a little bit fatter, which means the buoyancy is probably going to be more buoyant. So you can use it at a heavier little ball head or a shroom head. You could say Ned rig head, but any sort of little jig with a little hook that's going to fit a 3-inch bait like that, you can consider a Ned rig. Because I said the worm floats, don't be one of those guys that runs around saying, it's not a Ned rig plastic unless it floats. Nothing about a Ned rig says it needs to float. Basically, Ned rig, tiny hook, 1/0 or less than a 3-inch plastic, there's your Ned rig. It's really that easy. My boy Cliff Pace on the front right there. Cliff and I are working at Savage Gear together. This is the pork shad. It looks like a fluke style bait, round 5 inches in green pumpkin. See if my lights are reflecting there for you guys. Boop. Those will kill. You know what a lot of people are not aware of? That a fluke on a darter head or a ball jig head is absolutely great during the winter. Any sort of straight tail worm is great. Fluke's no different, whether you have a shad one or a green pumpkin color. If you're in ponds later in the winter, the bass need to feed up. They're going to feed on bluegill. Stick that thing on a jig head, bounce it down up off the bottom. Use them as chatterbait trailers. If you have a shad color, the shad die-off is usually in the low 50-degree water temperature. So fish it like that. They work great. Some Daiichi worm hooks. There's 3 worm hooks in there, a 3/0, good universal size. That'll get you by with those soft plastics in there. Now this is dope, the Booyah Frank. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that. This is the popper with the lip. And when this was first coming out and I seen it at iCast, I didn't even know what it was. I seen it at iCast and I'm like, what is that? So I went and watched a video on the thing. I don't own one, but now I do, which is really cool. Essentially, it's a popper / wake bait, but it doesn't really wake. It's more like a square bill. So if you imagine a very buoyant square bill that gets down to about 2 foot deep, or a popper, you could still pop or chug. Let me explain something here. Boop, on the surface, slackline, hit it on slackline, kind of stays in one spot, looks like the bait fish popping. Is great for staying in the strike zone. You throw it up next to a tree, pop it, let it sit right there. They'll come out and get it. Reeling to a tight line and whoop, bringing it under, the chug, whoop, it makes it sound like something just fed. So generally if you're pop, pop, and you throw one chug in, don't throw in multiple chugs unless you're fishing muddy water, and you probably wouldn't be fishing a popper at that point. Anyways, now what's cool with this bait is you can work it down a bank. Let's say it's just one shoreline and it all looks the same. You don't have to pick up another rod. You can throw it up in the shallow, especially if the water's dirty. The bass are going to be shallower water, dirty water. They're going to come up tighter. The better the oxygen level in dirty water is shallower. So if it's cleaner, they're probably going to go deeper. If it's dirtier, they're probably going to go shallower. Just a general rule of thumb, not law, but you can cover bank fast. You can throw this up there, reel it in fast. Then if you see a bush or a tree or one unique rock where you're like, there's got to be a fish sitting on that, throw that up there, pop it, kill it. Cool bone color. Glad they put that in there. Oh, now check this out. This is that's a half ounce rattle trap. Now, I know you guys have seen this forever. This is a new color. This is the orange spot. Now, it's a light color. Dirty water's got orange. Orange underwater always looks crawfishy like, and the bass are always going to feed on crawfish. Now, let me explain something right here. Everybody hears about blade baits and lipless baits in the winter time, okay? And most of the time when they're talking about lipless crankbaits in the wintertime, they're talking about yo-yoing them up and down off the bottom. When I'm searching for bass in the winter, that was awesome, just dropped the box. When I'm searching for bass in the winter, I'm still throwing the original rattle trap. I'm gonna cast it out, let it get to the bottom, and reel in. The original rattle trap is not great on the yo-yo, still works good, but I still think it's the best lipless for a straight retrieve. Or if you see any blackbirds on top of the water, the little black ducks that they call coots, there's still grass roots down there, and little crawfish love to sit in those grass roots. Cast this over those coots, let it land on the bottom, slow roll it in. Great way to score reaction strikes. They're not necessarily eating this in the wintertime. They're just sitting there and they're like, get out! And they're hooked. So that's how that goes. Let me reach back down here and grab this box I fumbled. So, now this is something I'm pretty stoked about. I heard about these. My buddy Rick, who runs MonsterBass, I'm sure you know who Rick is by now, has told me about these Rabid baits. Now, I want you guys to take a look here. Now, if you see something, there's hair attached to the plastic. Now, this is something unique to Rabid baits. I hear that they're working on a patent for that. Now, these worms are also buoyant. So, jig head style worms, the tail's going to be up. There's hair on there. And if you haven't heard about fishing hair jigs in the wintertime, you've been living in a cave. The slower you move a jig that has hair, it's fantastic. The hair always looks alive in the water. Always looks moving. Hair jigs, anything with hair in the wintertime is preferable because it looks alive, very realistic. Basically, do nothing, get bit. If there is going to be an artificial that fishes as close as it can to real bait, that's probably going to be the deal right there. I'm hearing about guys in the Midwest and up north already killing them on these things. Can't wait to throw it on a shaky head and give it a whirl. That's it, guys, aside from this sweet MonsterBass sticker. I'll just stick this on my buddy's truck. He's probably already in my house. I'll walk out there, stick that on there, and a dope Rabid bait sticker. I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman. Guys, if you haven't checked out MonsterBass, I suggest you do so. This is by far the best bang for your buck. I'm working with these guys. I'm not going to back a brand that sucks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.